The blizzard was unforgiving, snow tearing sideways, wind screaming as if it carried warnings. Cars were abandoned. Lights flickered. The world was swallowed in white.u.s. Marine David Holt gripped the steering wheel, fighting to get home before the road disappeared completely. Beside him, his K9, Rex, sat tense, until suddenly he lunged forward, barking wildly. Scratching at the window like he was drowning in panic, David slammed the brakes at first. He saw nothing. Then he saw her, a pregnant woman sitting alone on a frozen bench, head hanging, lips blue, clothes torn as if she'd been dragged through the night. Snow piled on her shoulders like it was trying to bury her alive. One hand clutched her belly. The other hung limp at her side. Rex bolted out of the truck, barking in panic. Not aggression, a warning, a plea. David followed, boots sinking deep into the snow. He didn't know it yet, but this woman wasn't just injured. She was running from someone. He dropped to his knees beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, then widened in terror. "Please," she choked, gripping his sleeve with frozen fingers. "He said he'd come back. He said I wouldn't survive the second time. Please, don't let him find me." David's blood ran cold, because they weren't alone. Someone dangerous was already watching them from the dark, closer than he could ever imagine. And this wasn't an accident. This was an escape. The snowstorm hit faster than anyone expected. Thick sheets of white erased the road, swallowed streetlights, and turned the world into a freezing blur. U.S. Marine David Holt leaned forward in his seat, squinting through the windshield as his K9 partner, Rex, sat alert beside him. The drive was quiet, almost too quiet, until Rex suddenly stiffened. His ears shot up. His tail dropped. Then he barked. Once. Sharp. Urgent. David frowned. "What is it, boy?" Rex moved to the window, scratching at the glass with frantic determination. His body trembled, not with fear, but with warning. David slowed the truck, scanning the empty, snow-covered sidewalk. At first, he saw nothing but swirling white. Then Rex let out a desperate whine. David followed his gaze, and his breath caught. Under a flickering street lamp sat a woman on a bench. Her head slumped forward, snow collecting on her hair and shoulders. Her dress was torn, her skin bruised, and one trembling hand clutched her pregnant belly. "Dear God," David whispered. Before the truck even stopped, Rex leaped out into the storm. Sprinting toward her with a bark David had never heard from him, a mix of fear and urgency, David jumped out after him. Boots sinking deep into the snow. Something was terribly, dangerously wrong. And Rex had sensed it first. David reached the bench just seconds after Rex. The K9 pressed himself against the woman's leg, nudging her gently, whining with a softness that contrasted the violent storm around them. Snowflakes clung to her eyelashes, her lips blue from the cold. When David touched her shoulder, she flinched, weakly, painfully, like she didn't even have enough strength left to be afraid. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then filled with relief when she saw Rex. She tried to speak, but only a shaky breath escaped. David noticed her belly tighten under her trembling hand. She wasn't just freezing, she was in distress. Serious distress. "Stay with me," David urged. He shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders, shielding her from the wind. The moment the warmth touched her skin, tears welled in her eyes. She whispered something so faint David had to lean in to hear it. "Please, don't let him find me." David's chest tightened. He glanced at Rex, whose ears were pinned forward, eyes locked on the darkened path behind them. The dog wasn't watching the woman anymore. He was watching the shadows. David gently lifted her into his arms. Her breathing hitched. Her grip tightened on his collar. Whoever she was running from was not far behind. David tightened his hold on the woman as Rex circled them, growling low at the darkness. Snow whipped through the air like shards of glass, but even the storm couldn't hide the fear in her eyes. She clutched David's sleeve, breath shallow and uneven. "He left me here," she whispered, voice cracking. "Said he'd come back when I couldn't run anymore." David's stomach twisted. Who did this to you?" Before she could answer, Rex suddenly froze. His entire body stiffened, ears forward, tail rigid, nose lifted toward the wind. David recognized the posture instantly. Not fear. Hunting mode. Rex let out a deep, warning bark that echoed across the empty street. The woman's eyes widened. No, no, please. He's here. David swept his flashlight across the snow-covered path. At first, there was only swirling white. Then, movement. A shadow slipping behind a tree. Another step. Closer. Rex lunged forward, snarling, planting himself between the threat and the woman. David felt adrenaline flood his veins. Rex, hold. He commanded, stepping back while shielding the woman with his body. She gripped his arm, her fingers ice cold. He won't stop, she whispered, trembling. He said if I screamed again, he'd make sure the baby never comes. A chill ran down David's spine. This wasn't a rescue anymore. This was a confrontation waiting to explode in the storm. The shadow moved again, closer this time. A crunch of footsteps cut through the wind. David shifted his stance, pulling the woman slightly behind him as Rex exploded into a ferocious bark that shook the frozen air. The dog's muscles bunched, his paws carving deep lines into the snow as he prepared to strike. Show yourself, David shouted. A tall figure emerged from behind a tree, face half covered by a hood, breath steaming in rapid, angry bursts. You shouldn't have touched her, the man growled. She's mine. The woman whimpered and buried her face against David's chest. Rex snapped his jaws, teeth flashing in the dim streetlight. The man lunged. Rex shot forward like a bullet, slamming into him with full force. Snow exploded around them as they crashed to the ground, Rex snarling, pinning the man's arm to the ice. The attacker swung wildly, trying to hit the dog, but David was already there. He kicked the man's leg out, grabbed his arm, and forced him face down into the snow. The man thrashed, screaming, "You don't know what she did. She deserved it." David's voice dropped cold. "She deserves protection." Rex growled inches from the man's face. Holding him in place with perfect discipline, the storm raged on. But the real danger had finally been exposed. The moment the attacker's wrists were bound with David's zip-tie cuffs, the woman's body went limp in his arms. Her breaths turned ragged, shallow, uneven, each one more desperate than the last. Rex stayed locked on the restrained man, but his ears kept flicking back toward her, sensing something far worse than fear. David knelt beside her. "Ma'am, look at me. Stay with me." Her eyes fluttered, unfocused, filled with pain. "My baby, something's wrong." A sharp cry escaped her lips as her hand gripped her belly, fingers digging into her coat. David felt her abdomen tighten beneath his palm. Too tight, too sudden. Panic surged in his chest. "We need to move. Now." He hoisted her into his arms, her face buried against his shoulder, tears soaking into his jacket from the pain she couldn't hide. Rex ran ahead, clearing the path through the deep snow, barking urgently as if pushing them forward. The storm had become a white wall, no visibility, no sound except wind. David stumbled toward his truck, boots slipping, body trembling from the weight he carried behind them. The attacker screamed curses into the storm, but Rex didn't look back once. David opened the truck door and carefully placed her inside. Her breaths came quicker now, panic mixing with agony. "Please, save my baby," she whispered. David swallowed hard, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. That he had minutes, maybe less, and failure was not an option. Snow hammered the windshield as David sped through the storm. Rex bracing himself on the back seat beside the woman, whining softly every time she cried out in pain. Her head rested against David's arm, her breath shallow and uneven. The hospital was still miles away. Every second felt stolen, every bump in the road a threat. "Stay with me," David urged. "You're almost there." Her eyes opened weakly. "I thought I was going to die out there." "You're safe now," he whispered. Tears slid down her cheeks, not from the pain, but from something deeper. "I didn't run because of me," she said softly. "I ran because he said he'd take my baby away. He said the world didn't need another child from me." Her voice trembled. "He left me on that bench so I'd freeze before anyone found us." David's jaw tightened. Rex let out a low, protective rumble. They burst through the hospital doors minutes later. Nurses rushed her inside, and Rex paced the hallway relentlessly, refusing to sit until he was sure she was alive. After what felt like hours, a doctor approached. "She's safe," he said with a small smile. "And so is the baby." Relief washed over David. Rex finally lay down, tail thumping weakly. When the woman woke, her first words were a whisper. Tell the Marine and his dog. They saved both our lives." And Rex, hearing her voice, lifted his head, eyes soft, proud, and full of the loyalty only a true protector carries.